Get people off your potter's wheel. Director of a charity is looking out over the rolls and notices that the president of the bank has never donated to any charity ever. So he calls him up. He goes, "You make $500,000 a year. You've never given to any charity." And the bank president goes, "Well, in your research, did you see that my mom is going through all these procedures and has these gigantic medical bills?" Director goes, "Oh, no, I didn't know that." Or that my brother is blind and can't find work. "Oh, no, didn't know that either." Or that my sister's husband just died, leaving her with 4 kids to raise. Director says, "Oh my God, I didn't know that either." Banker says, "Well, if I'm not giving them any money, you think I'm going to give some to you?" All right, let's do our receptivity prayer. I am open to the evolution of my soul. My mind is alert. My heart is receptive. My next step is here and now. All right. So today, I'm going to talk to you about getting people off your potter's wheel. Now, in life, we're confronted by folks who are very different from us. We don't like how they behave. We think they ought to be different. We think they ought to think the way we think. And it's real easy to like people who are just like us, who show up here, who believe the same things we do. And our tendency is, when people don't believe the way we do, or don't look the way we do, or don't act the way we do, to do one of two things: to discount them, or to try to get them on our potter's wheel and change them because we're sure we know how they should behave. Now, there are probably some folks in this room who would like to get the president on their potter's wheel. I know that there are a ton of customer service people who I'd like to get on mine. But when we do that, we forget the basic premise of our teaching. There is only one. There is only one. And we are all that one. The only thing we need to be thinking about, no matter who it is unconditional love. Unconditional love has been the one thing over history throughout time that has stood the test of time. Everything else has fallen to the wayside. Who do we still quote over thousands of years later? Buddha? Jesus? I don't hear very many people going around quoting Hitler, Genghis Khan. Love is what stands up. Love is what holds up. Love is what changes things for the good each and every time. And that's what it is we preach here. Now, we have this thing that goes on in our teaching, which is kind of holier than thou. And I tell you, I have traveled this country and heard many a minister talk about the difference between our teaching and others' teachings. And that is a holier than thou stance that separates. It is our job to become inclusive because there is only one. And when somebody else doesn't want to include us, it's up to us to make the bigger circle, to include them. Now, besides those people like that, the other people we like getting on our potter's wheel are actually those we love, right? Because we're sure that if they'd only listened to us, if they only took our advice, their lives would be so much better. But we don't know what their journey is, just the same way they don't know what ours is. We don't know what's in store for them, the same way they don't know what's in store for us. There's a story I'm sure I've shared before about a young boy who's walking in the woods and he sees a cocoon where the butterfly is trying with all its might to break out of that cocoon. And he wants to be helpful. So with the best of intentions, he goes over and puts a little slit in it to help the butterfly get out. And the butterfly comes out and it can't fly because the blood has not pushed out into its wings. It will now never be able to fly because it takes the struggle of breaking out of the cocoon for that butterfly to gain its full potential. Now, you guys sitting here, many of you have been through some dramatic opportunities in life for growth. So you know what it is I'm talking about. And yet, even though we know that the best opportunities for life happen with the hardest stuff that goes on, our tendency is still to want to help somebody else because somehow we know better. We don't. And it's not our job to do that. I got this amazing lesson really clear with my son. He went homeless for 3 years, living out of his car. And every time I spoke to him, I was like, why don't you get a job? Why don't you work your way up? Why don't you make yourself, so you can afford to actually get a place to live? This isn't good, you living out of your car. And this went on for 3 years with him just being very politely going, I hear you, Dad, and kept doing what he was doing. At the end of the 3 years, he had saved so much money because he had been working so hard that he was able to buy himself a new car cash outright, pay off rent for an apartment for a year, a really nice place, continue to work, and had enough left over so that now he can go in the studio and cut his first record, which is what his plan was. He had a 3-year plan. He pulled it off perfectly, and I had no idea. Don't be like me. Don't get in the way of people and their highest dream. You just don't know. 2 siblings grow up in the exact same household, and you listen to one what their experience was like, and you listen to the other what that person's experience is like, and you can't even think that they grew up in the same house. So even siblings, you cannot know what somebody else's path is, what their journal is. Get them off your potter's wheel. And love them and encourage them. Don't think you know better for anybody else out there. It isn't true. You don't. Now, you do have a potter's wheel. Guess who's supposed to be on that? Each of us has a potter's wheel for us. And that's our job, to be on our potter's wheel and knowing that everybody else has theirs and is going at their pace. Unconditional love is not really something that always has an immediate impact. Sometimes it takes time. Researchers found these seeds that were 4,000 years old, and they planted them, and they grew. Go figure. That could happen. It's the same with people, hopefully not 4,000 years. But people grow at their own pace, and it isn't up to us to know what that is. It isn't up to us to get our hands in the gears of somebody else's life. But it is ours to love them unconditionally, to hold them, to think the best for them, to give them the benefit of the doubt. That is our job. When we do that, we raise people up, we make things whole, and we increase our circle the way it's supposed to be increased. Man, I'll tell you, there's something in me that is birthing with being here with you over this past year and a half. And even on my own potter's wheel, I noticed that I get impatient for that birth. So it occurs to me that sometimes we are pushing ourselves in ways that we really need, and losing the fact that unconditional love isn't just about others, it's about ourselves. And that self-love of feeling where it's okay. We're going to grow at the pace we're supposed to grow at. That in our teaching, we believe in perfect and right time. And yet it's easy to get lost when we're looking to grow something, to have things work out in ways that we dream, and yet sometimes don't feel that dream coming true at a pace that would work for us. Certainly it happens when we look at others. Geez, that person should be further along by now. No. And when we start thinking about how our church is the only church, I heard this great quote. To think that your church and the way you worship is the way that everybody should worship is the same as thinking if you filled your bathtub, it's the Pacific Ocean. Sure, we have a great teaching here, but so does everybody else. And those who embody, remember that what we talked about a couple weeks ago, what we embody is what's important. It actually doesn't matter what we believe. It matters how we believe. Because it is through embodiment, whether it be Allah, Jesus, or the divine as we think of it within ourselves, when we truly embody that, the power is there and the results show up. That's the beauty of inclusion. And unconditional love is completely inclusive. There is only one power, one presence. There is only one. When we sit in that identity prayer, who could we look at and see them as different from us, as outside God? So this is the thing we're going for here. I read a quote by Jesus. He said, "I will know my disciples by their ability to love." He didn't say by what they spiritually believed. He didn't say by how many miracles they created. He said by their love. And so that is what we're trying to do here, is open ourselves up to all those people we are sure we could do better than, and loving them. Loving them so fully and wholly that they are overwhelmed by that feeling. I heard a story about Steve Jobs on his death. He grew up in the Catholic Church, but he broke away from that. He tried other religions. He never really settled on anything. He never really developed a spiritual nature according to everything written about him. And on his deathbed, his last 3 words were, "Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow." So it sounds like without having a spiritual practice, he still got to go to the same transition that the rest of us are heading towards. He still got to grow into being whatever it is that comes next. I heard about a young couple. They were in a restaurant, eating with their baby, 1-year-old. Sitting behind them was a homeless man, dirty, clothes torn, and he was soaking wet because it was pouring outside. And the man engaged the baby. He engages this baby to where the baby's eyes just light up. And then he engages this baby so much the baby starts laughing. Well, the parents are getting completely embarrassed by all this. So they start eating faster. They order the check, and they just think they got to get out of there fast because they don't want their baby engaging this homeless guy. And so they get the check, and the dad runs out to get the car because it's raining. The mom gets online with the baby to pay the check, and the homeless guy gets right up behind them. And before the mom knows it, the baby's reaching for the homeless guy. The homeless guy grabs the baby, and now the baby is in the homeless guy's arms, and the baby is hugging this man and putting his head on his shoulder. The mom, who was embarrassed about her baby engaging in this homeless man, was now embarrassed for her judgment of this man. The man gave her back the baby and said, "You be good to this little man." She said she would. And the thing about it is what I pray for us today is that we are open-hearted as that baby to anyone we come across. That we drop our judgments of other people. We drop our feelings that we can do it better. We drop our notion that somehow they're doing it wrong. There is just no telling what is right or wrong and where it is headed. There's an old Zen proverb, I love this story. It's about a farmer. The farmer's horse runs away. Neighbor comes over and says, "Oh my God, that's terrible." Well, a few days later, the horse comes back with 3 more horses. Now the neighbor comes over and says, "Oh my God, that's fantastic." Both times the farmer just goes, "Maybe." A few days later, the son of the farmer is trying to break the new horses, falls and breaks his leg. And the neighbor comes over and goes, "Oh my God, that's terrible." The farmer goes, "Maybe." And a few days later, the army comes looking for able-bodied men to take away in the army, and because the kid's leg is broken, he doesn't have to go. Neighbor comes over again and says, "Oh my God, that's great." Farmer goes, "Maybe." There's just no telling what's good, what's bad, what's indifferent. We can't judge how something is happening now and how it plays out in the future. There is no way for us to know. Our best bet is love. Our best bet is unconditional love. Our best bet is feeling the highest and best for everyone and everything. That's what we do in this teaching. We know highest and best. We open our hearts. When we walk around closed-hearted to anyone, we are cutting off that love to ourselves. This is what's possible in our teaching, is to remember that there is only one. There is only one. And everything and everybody is that one. We can't look at anything as outside that, or we lose the sense of what it is we teach here. And we lose our sense of our open hearts. There was this couple that had this dog named Lucky. And Lucky would, every time somebody came to stay, steal something from their suitcase or from them and put it down with his toys downstairs. And so this couple would warn people, "Listen, if you've got stuff, keep it close to you because Lucky's going to try and grab something and put it down with his stuff in the basement." At some point, the woman got breast cancer. And the dog, who loved this woman dearly, was beside himself in terms of how to be with this. So one day, when the woman was home from chemo and having a particularly hard day, she fell asleep on the couch. When she woke up, she felt a heaviness on her chest and got scared for a moment until she opened her eyes and realized that Lucky had brought up every single one of his toys and placed it on her. Trip after trip after trip to place love on this woman he loved. Imagine if we were like that with people. Trip after trip after trip, just loving them, giving them kindness, no matter who they are, white, black, Hispanic, supremacist, whatever, continuing to love, 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 Dodger fan, Giant fan, love, bringing that forth from us all the time. Imagine the power it would have on the relationships in your life, the improvements you'd see around you and how you viewed life. When we do this, this is the power of what we have here in coming to that everything is one. Everything is one. Everything is divine. Unconditional love is the way to go. And when we do this, that is when we truly become the change we want to see in the world. I love you exactly the way you are. Thank you. Take out what you're going to give. Hold it in your hand. Unwrinkle it. Unfold it. Hold it in your hand. This is not just money, it is power. It is presence. It is how we get the law of circulation moving. We get it moving. We get it going around. And as we do that, our lives prosper. This is how you get your lives to prosper, by what you give. So let's say our prosperity affirmation together. God is the source of all supply. Money is God in action. What we give, we receive multiplied abundantly. All that God is, I am. And so it is.